Hello and welcome to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's video, I will be covering drought conditions, wildfire concerns, also here the severe weather threat all the way through the weekend, and looking longer range through May and into portions of early June as well. So I do welcome myself back. I do have a lot to talk about here in this video. I have been gone on this channel for quite some time. I am back now, and I am dedicated to daily forecast video updates through the rest of this week and into early next week here as well, to cover all of the severe weather, maybe even the hurricane season here coming up toward starting June 1st as well. But there's a lot to unpack in this video, so let's get right to it. We do have a lot of red flag warnings here, a lot of alerts with the red flag warnings, some wind advisories, some high wind warnings across portions here of the western United States. Of most concern is the red flag warnings across portions here of Nebraska, western Kansas, and then across west central Texas, and especially across New Mexico, Colorado, and then getting back here into portions of Arizona and Utah as well, even into southern Nevada. A lot of red flag warnings across the southwestern U.S., and that is due to some fire weather concerns. We do have elevated to even critical fire weather concerns across the Four Corners region and into the southern plains. We do have elevated fire concerns here up into portions of Montana and even getting back into north central California. But of most concern is the critical fire weather concern from portions of New Mexico getting up into southeastern and southern Colorado, maybe even nosing its way up into portions of western Nebraska, and then getting back into portions there of northern Arizona, southern Utah, and then even portions of southeastern and southern Nevada as well. And this does cover the Albuquerque area, getting up toward Denver, Boulder, Colorado, and then kind of over into portions there of northern Arizona as well. And then that'll continue as we head into our Friday. We do have critical fire weather concerns across much of the state of New Mexico, eastern Arizona. We continued elevated fire weather concerns across north central California, and then into portions there of central and eastern Arizona, maybe far southern portions there of Colorado and the Texas Panhandle. Definitely have to watch that as we head through our Friday. So if you have any grilling to do, any recreational fires, campfires, do want to kind of keep them at bay, because the dry soils in this area is very critical to fire weather concerns. The fires can spread very rapidly across these areas, so do want to be mindful of that. Then as we kind of move along here, this is the day one outlook. The Storm Prediction Center has put out an enhanced risk, a 3 of 5 risk on the scale of 0 to 5 across here portions of western Wisconsin, southeastern Minnesota, and northern and northeastern Iowa. Kind of a smaller zone there here of an enhanced risk. This does include the La Crosse, Wisconsin area, getting down into Rochester, Minnesota, portions there just north of Des Moines here in Iowa. We also do have a 2 of 5, a slight risk of severe weather here covering the Missouri Ozarks, getting across southern Illinois and in the lower Ohio Valley and getting down into the Carolinas here. This does include St. Louis, Cape Girardeau type areas here, maybe just north of there, Paducah, Kentucky, Carbondale, Illinois, and then kind of inching its way over here towards Henryville, Indiana, Lexington, Kentucky, Louisville, and then getting down here into portions of eastern Tennessee into Knoxville, and then across the Raleigh area here as we get into North Carolina as well as northern South Carolina here, maybe have some scattered severe weather across those areas today as well. So let's kind of break down the risk categories here for today. We do have a 5% tornado risk across portions of southern Illinois, far southwestern Indiana, and getting into portions of the Missouri Ozarks region. This does include St. Louis, Carbondale, Illinois, getting over toward Henryville, Indiana. Also another 5% tornado risk across portions of western Wisconsin, including La Crosse, Wisconsin, Rochester, Minnesota, and just to the north of Des Moines as we head through the day today. We also have a 30% wind risk across that same area in that enhanced risk zone, also a 15% wind risk. This does include much of the Wisconsin Dells region, back toward portions there of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and then down toward Des Moines, and just to the north and east there of Omaha. And we also do have a 15% wind risk here across portions of the Missouri Ozarks, the lower Ohio Valley, and inching its way over there towards the Carolinas area as well. And then we do have a 30% and also significant hail risk, a hatch watched hail risk of 2-inch or larger hailstones possible here in the zone from west central Wisconsin, southeastern Minnesota, getting into northern Iowa. This does include, again, La Crosse, Wisconsin, Rochester, Minnesota, and inching its way down here maybe towards Fort Dodge, portions there of Iowa. So do want to be mindful of that. Some big hailstones with the storms here as we head through the day today. So why is this happening? Well, we do have a lot of energy pushing in with a northern stream shortwave kind of pushing across the northwestern portion of the country. We do have a southern stream kind of diffuse southern stream shortwave kind of pushing across the southern United States. So kind of the more of the energy up in the north here. But this will continue to push off to the east, and as it does so, a pretty strong jet will start to emerge from this across the northern plains, across the Intermountain West, and into the northern Great Lakes. And this ahead of this, we'll have a lot of warm, moist, and humid air, and this will definitely feed the threat for some severe weather, even some heavy rainfall potential as well. And this will always continue all the way through portions here of early Friday into early, Saturday, as well as kind of a very strong jet will be pushing in across the northern plains and into the upper Midwest here, feeding in this severe weather threat and that heavy rain threat. So kind of looking at the composite reflectivity of how the radar may look here as we head towards the rest of today. We do have some quiet weather across much of the upper Midwest here late this afternoon, some thunderstorms and showers across portions of the Dakotas, particularly North Dakota, and then getting back into Wyoming here. We do have some scattered showers and storms maybe popping up later this afternoon across south central Missouri, getting over toward the St. Louis area. But as we head toward late afternoon, these storms will start to fire up pretty strongly across portions of south central and southeastern Minnesota, or rather Missouri. I cannot talk today, folks. I am very sorry. Southern and southeastern Missouri, also getting into southern Illinois. We do have a couple of cells trying to pop up across portions of eastern Minnesota, western Wisconsin here, around the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, maybe Rochester, Minnesota, over toward La Crosse, Wisconsin, so do got to watch that. But as we head through time, storms will really start bubbling up across Wisconsin and especially down into southern Illinois, southeastern portions there of Missouri. Could pose the risk here, some damaging wind gusts in excess of 60 miles per hour, some large hail, particularly across portions of Minnesota, southeastern Minnesota, western Wisconsin, and then inching its way down into northern Iowa for that 2-inch or larger hailstone type variety. And that'll continue as we head into the evening hours around the dinner time frame, and that'll also continue here well into the overnight here across these areas as that strong low-level jet starts to push in here to these storms, kind of feeding off of that warm and humid air. So why are we having this setup today? We do have a lot of warm temperatures out ahead of the boundary here, a cold front that'll be developing across the portions of the Dakotas, pushing to the east-southeast. We do have a lot of 80s showing up across Illinois, Iowa, southern portions of Minnesota, southern and central portions of Wisconsin. To the north of that boundary, we do have a lot of 60s and 70s, some cooler air, and then behind the boundary of that cold front here, some 50s and 40s showing up. So a pretty strong front. And ahead of that, we also have a lot of dew points rising well into the 50s, maybe some lower 60s mixed in, especially into southern Iowa, and that will feed into the storm risk as we head into later today with available CAPE. Convective available potential energy rising well into the 1,000 to 2,000 range across portions of the upper Midwest, where across portions of the lower Missouri Valley, southern Illinois, into the lower Ohio River Valley, and into the Tennessee Valley and the Carolinas, we do have a lot more CAPE convective available potential energy in play, kind of on the order of 2,500 to locally 4,000 joules per kilogram. So a lot of instability across these areas to feed into that storm risk. We also do have a pretty strong jet, like I was talking, across portions here of the northwestern U.S. from the Pacific Northwest getting into the northern plains, upper Midwest, and that will maintain these storms with some pretty strong westerlies in the jet stream pushing in, and that will kind of feed into the supercell threat here as we head into later today, especially into Iowa, southeastern Minnesota, and getting into western Wisconsin. Got to watch those storms. A couple of these could be rotating. Even some rotating storms are possible across the lower Ohio Valley and into portions of Missouri as well that I showed you, so we'll have to watch that. And the significant tornado parameters not showing up too strongly today. They actually have backed off since yesterday, but we are seeing still some values across southeastern Minnesota, northern Iowa, getting into Wisconsin, and then across the portions of Kentucky and southern Illinois, and then back here into portions there of Missouri as well. So do be mindful of that. I did take a forecast sounding here of the Rochester, Minnesota area, just to kind of give you an idea of what the atmosphere above here in the mid and upper levels are looking like, we do have a pretty strong curved hodograph across these areas. So it is showing at least a marginal tornado hazard tag here on this. And we do have that instability. Like I said, not a lot of it, but enough for some severe weather. You know, we got 1,300 and then eventually a closing in on 2,000 joules per kilogram across that area. We do have a little bit of a cap potentially closing in on this area, but not here enough to kind of, you know, inhibit storm activity. We should have storms firing, not particularly strong in the wind shear department here across these areas into southeastern Minnesota, but there is enough to have, you know, like I said, that marginal tornado risk with that decent looking hodograph here kind of curving. We could have some 40,000, maybe 50,000 foot storm tops here later today across those areas into southeastern Minnesota with all that daytime heating. Then as we head into Friday, another severe weather risk as this cold front starts to sag its way to the south and east here across portions of the Great Lakes, getting down into the middle Mississippi River Valley and then the southern plains. We do have another risk for severe weather. This does extend from portions of lower Michigan all the way down through here portions of south central Lake Michigan, northern portions there of Indiana, north central Illinois, and then getting into northeastern Missouri, and another slight risk across portions there of southern and central portions there of Oklahoma into northern Texas. This is near the Oklahoma City area, getting down towards Wichita Falls, just east of there, and then north and west of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex near the Red River. And then we also have a slight risk here of severe weather, 2 out of 5, from lower Michigan, including Lansing, over towards and just west of Detroit, getting in towards South Bend, Indiana, Chicago, Milwaukee, and then getting down toward Peoria, Illinois as well, Kirksville, Missouri. So do have to be mindful of that. Even Kansas City and St. Louis in that marginal risk, that 1 out of 5 here on the scale as we head into our Friday. Tornado risk kind of mainly focused into lower Michigan, but a lower risk, a 2% risk showing up there. And then we do have a 5% to 15% wind risk across portions of lower Michigan and also here southern Oklahoma, northern Texas, and then here just kind of a lower risk of wind across the middle Mississippi Valley. And then the same thing goes for the hail here, just a general hail risk across these areas here outlooked in the severe weather outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. So we are seeing some storms that may be ongoing across portions of northern Illinois with the remnants of the MCS or mesoscale convective system overnight on Thursday, heading into Friday morning. That'll be weakening as we head through the morning hours here, looking at the composite reflectivity. But as we head into late into the afternoon, mid to late afternoon on Friday, we are seeing here some bubbling storms potentially into northwestern Illinois, getting up towards Lake Michigan and down here towards Oklahoma and Missouri as well. This particular model is not too bullish on the storm, development as we head through the day on Friday. But we are seeing some better, brighter returns across portions there of lower Michigan. So a lot more lift in those areas here, closer in the proximity to the low pressure system, the shortwave trough, and a lot of the jet dynamics. So I do expect at least some scattering severe weather across portions of lower Michigan as we head through the dinner time frame. And then storms will start to fire up in the middle Mississippi and Missouri Valley, getting into southern portions there of Illinois, central Illinois, northern Indiana, southern lower Michigan here as we head into the overnight hours, and that'll only continue. But this is kind of the setup as we head toward Friday. We do have a lot of 80s ahead of that cold front, a lot of cooler weather on the cool side of that cold front. Pretty potent front coming through here from the north and west, and this ahead of the front will have a lot of 60s, maybe even some lower 70 dew points here, especially with southward extent toward the mid-south and into the southern plains, and that'll feed in here to some instability. Pulling up along that cold front here as it pushes to the south and east could be here on the order of 2,000 to 3,500 plus joules per kilogram. As you head down here to Oklahoma, southern Oklahoma, north Texas, we could have instability approaching 4,500 joules per kilogram. So some explosive storm development is possible there, and that is why the Storm Prediction Center has outlooked that small area there from southern Oklahoma, north Texas in that slight risk zone. The only caveat tomorrow I see is that there is going to be a very strong capping inversion on the atmosphere where you have a warm layer aloft here in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere. And storms do not like warmer air aloft. They like a lot of cool air, and that's how you get those very tall updrafts, those very tall cores in those storms. And when you have a very strong capping inversion, they don't want to hear those air parcels do not want to rise and accelerate into the atmosphere very quickly. So that is why we are seeing here kind of this model showing a lot of stunted storm growth across these areas here is due to this cap in the mix layer and also at the surface here ahead of the cold front. So that is kind of the only caveat to the forecast here. Very uncertain of how it will play out tomorrow, but we'll see how that here works out. We got some strong jet stream winds coming in the mid and upper levels out of the west southwest, so we may be able to kind of break that cap open potentially as we head to late tomorrow afternoon, especially into lower Michigan, but here a little more uncertain into portions here of the middle Mississippi Valley, the Missouri Valley, into the southern plains as we head into tomorrow. More of a conditional risk, if you will, across those areas. But if we do get storms, supercells are possible, especially into lower Michigan, northern Indiana, maybe northeastern Illinois here. Some instability growing in those areas, some rotating storms with those jet dynamics pushing in. And the tornado parameter pretty much going along with that Storm Prediction Center's thinking of that 2% tornado risk across Michigan during tomorrow. I did take another sounding of central lower Michigan, seeing a decent hodograph here, not the best hodograph I've ever seen, but you can see a possible hazard tag of tornado. We do have a little bit more stronger speed shear in the atmosphere on Friday rather than here on Thursday across the Rochester, Minnesota area, but we aren't seeing a lot of turning of the winds with height, so that does lead me to think that here, the main risk will be more of hail and wind rather than tornadoes, but an isolated tornado cannot be ruled out, especially when you got surface CAPE values, convective available potential energy, kind of over that 2,500 mark, and that is kind of double of what you need. But you can see here on the skew chart, you can see some, a capping inversion where the reds and greens come together. That's where you have a cap on the atmosphere, maybe some drier air aloft here for some hail in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere here where the gaps between that red and green are on the skew chart. So definitely here be mindful of that. Some hail potential is there across that region. But generally in the next 48 hours, can be expecting some decent rains from portions of lower Michigan through the Chicagoland area, getting into central and northern Illinois, and then inching its way back into central Missouri, southeastern Kansas, northeastern portions there of Oklahoma, kind of on the order of another half inch to inch of rain across those areas, and especially into Wisconsin as well with that convective system pushing through on Thursday night. You could have some decent rains of an inch to an inch and a half plus across those areas, especially if you have some enhanced rainfall with some of those stronger storms. Definitely here, be mindful of that. Also here, some good news across the Florida Peninsula here the next 48 hours, potentially some more tropical type rains across those areas with, up to 2 inches of rain around the Orlando area, Tampa, Florida, Naples, getting down here just north of Miami Beach, some decent rainfall, maybe some drought conditions down in those areas. So that is some very good news. And kind of generally looking at the next 6 to 10 days here, this goes from Tuesday, May 24th through Saturday, May 28th, and you can see that trough will continue across portions of the northern U.S. and the Pacific Northwest. We got another ridge being reestablished here across the Four Corners back into the desert Southwest. That other ridge across the Northeast and the Southeastern U.S. will start to move out to the east into the Atlantic, and that'll kind of favor a lot of an active storm zone across the eastern U.S. here as we head through the remainder of May, with generally drier than normal conditions from the Four Corners back to the west and towards California. Also another kind of active zone of weather across portions of the Pacific Northwest around Washington State, Oregon State, portions of northern Idaho, western Montana, maybe some showers and storms here kind of moving up in those areas as well. This kind of goes through Saturday, May 28th. And then looking even further here, we do have this kind of going all the way through the opening days of June, and another really amplifying ridge will start to really reestablish across much of the southern and central portions of the country, from the northeast down through the mid-Atlantic, the Ohio Valley, the southeast, and then westward here into the southern and central plains, the desert southwest. And then we have another trough trying to develop across the Pacific Northwest here, and that will set up an active kind of ring of fire storm pattern here where we have a ridge across much of the Four Corners, the desert Southwest, and into the southern plains. And then around that ridge, we do have a lot of storm activity, because under a ridge with the high pressure, you have a lot of sinking air, so not a lot of rising air for cloud development and storms. But around the active storm track around the northern plains, the Great Lakes, and then getting into the Tennessee and Ohio valleys, southeast portions of the western New England area, we do have to be mindful of some more severe weather here, kind of the ring of fire storm pattern around this ring of high pressure with that developing ridge across the western U.S. That could spell some trouble for severe weather. We'll have to see how that is, because usually you can get some stronger instability across the middle of the country with that type of pattern here as we head toward the end of May and into early June across those areas. Now, this is concerning because the Drought Mitigation Center here, the U.S. Drought Mitigation Center, did release their new drought outlook as we head here into today, and that is here showing worsening drought across the Texas Panhandle through most of central Texas into New Mexico, and really most of the western half of the country, seeing increasing drought with those warmer temperatures. We're getting into the warm season now, so we're starting to see a lot of this drought accelerate here in intensity. Seeing still some pockets of drought across the southeast, like I said, into Florida and the portions here of the southeastern U.S., getting up into portions of the northeast, upper Midwest, but not as pronounced as the western U.S., where we are in, a severe, extreme, and exceptional drought across those areas here. So definitely need some rainfall, and unfortunately, probably not going to get too much of it across the Four Corners and into the southwest U.S. Generally looking here at kind of the upper level air kind of maps of what the pattern looks like moving forward toward the end of May. We're kind of seeing a more zonal pattern as we head into early next week, and that'll continue toward the middle of the week here as well. Will have some short waves and a little bit of energy with a little bit of a trough here pushing into the southwestern United States, moving in toward Texas, and that'll set up an active storm track where we have some repeated rounds of heavy rainfall through Texas and into the mid-south as we head into the end of May here, and that is concerning because round after round here, a lot of flash flooding potential here will be evolving as we head toward the end of May across the Texas area, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, maybe even into Mississippi as well, so do want to be mindful of that. The Weather Prediction Center is showing the potential the next 7 days. This goes all the way through the opening morning hours of Thursday, May 26th. Several inches of rain are possible across especially east central Texas, far southeastern Oklahoma, southwestern Arkansas, and northwestern Louisiana, on the order of 2 to 4 plus inches here, and really even up into portions of the middle Mississippi and Missouri Valley, and getting up into the Ohio Valley, some decent rainfall as well. And then unfortunately for areas in the Four Corners region here, an exception to portions near the Denver area with some upslope snowfall potential and some mountain snow across those areas. Kind of void of rainfall across portions of California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, and much of New Mexico here, if you will, across these areas. So unfortunately, the news does continue for that drought to continue across those areas as we head through the next couple of weeks. In general here, you can see as that trough continues to push down in the middle of the country here as we head in towards late this weekend. A lot of cooler daytime highs across Minnesota, the northern plains, Wisconsin, getting down to Illinois, some upper 50s, lower 60s across these areas, and that'll continue here as we head into Monday next week, and even into Tuesday. We have here temperatures in the 60s, some 80s down to the south, and that ridge will start to become reestablished. A lot of 100s showing up near Phoenix, getting back into southern portions and central portions there of California with the ongoing drought, even near the Las Vegas area, and then getting back here into portions of the Albuquerque area as well, maybe some lower 90s in that middle of next week. And then as we look even further here, this is the climate forecasting systems model, and is showing that that trough continuing across the Pacific Northwest as we head toward the very end of this month, the last weekend in May, and that ridge continuing to develop across the center of the country, and that'll just continue across portions of the center of the country as we head through Sunday, May 29th, and this ridge will continue to really amplify as we have that trough starting to dig down into portions of the southwestern U.S., and that may spell more trouble in the middle of the country for some severe weather with that active storm track I was talking about. And that could spell also some more trouble for some heavier rainfall, especially with areas getting all that rain into Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and especially Louisiana and portions there of Mississippi, and even up into the Ohio Valley here toward the end of the month and the opening days there of June. A lot of precipitable water values here showing up, which means the active storm track is still going to be kind of remaining off to the east and kind of the same areas that have been seeing the rainfall here of late. So we'll have to watch that. So thank you for watching my video. I know it was a lot. We did have a lot to unpack in the video, but I do thank you for bearing with me. Be sure to like my video, give me a thumbs up, and to subscribe to my channel. Leave any comments below here. I do appreciate it, and I'll hopefully have more daily forecast update videos as we head through time here through the next week or two. So thank you for watching, and have a great Thursday, everybody.